Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, and welcome back if you aren't. I'm EDJ, and we are now in part 4 of Epic History TV's ranking of the Napoleonic Marshals. And yeah, I really like this series. I like having more, context between the lives of these men, and just really kind of getting to know more about them in a way we couldn't in the original mainline series. So today, Bessières, MacDonald, and Masséna. I'm looking forward to this. Alright, so if you want to watch this video without me pausing to talk or my little circle, the link to this video will be down in the description down below. And let's get to it.
9. Marshal Bessières.
If I'd had Bessières with me at Waterloo, my guard would have brought me victory. Quite frankly, Napoleon, you probably needed a lot of people in Waterloo. Should have had Davout there, Masséna, Suchet. Well, then again, some of these guys probably weren't willing to participate, others were stationed elsewhere. But yeah, I would have had, like, the A-team with me at Waterloo. I would have found a way to at least have Davout there.
Jean-Baptiste Bessières was the son of a surgeon, with a relatively prosperous upbringing in southwestern France. When the French Revolution began, he volunteered for the National Guard and was sent to Paris to join the King's Constitutional Guard, along with his old school friend Joachim Murat. This unit was soon disbanded, but Bessières remained in Paris and was among the soldiers defending the Tuileries Palace when it was stormed by the mob on the 10th of August 1792. In the aftermath, he needed to get out of Paris in a hurry, so he volunteered to fight on the Pyrenees front. His bravery and good sense won him a commission in the 22nd Chasseurs, and he distinguished himself at the Battle of Boulou. Transferred to Italy, his friendship with Murat got him noticed by the army commander, General Bonaparte, who was impressed enough to make him commander of his new bodyguard, known as Les Guides de Bonaparte. Bessières distinguished himself as a cavalry commander in Italy, and later Egypt, winning promotion to brigadier and loyally supporting Napoleon at every turn. He became one of the few men that Napoleon regarded as a true friend.
Wow.
When Napoleon became first consul of France in 1799, he rewarded Bessières with command of the elite Consular Guard cavalry, which he led with devastating effect at Marengo the next year. In 1804, Bessières became a marshal, less for any great military achievement than for being a loyal member of Napoleon's inner circle. Bessières himself was well-liked, kind, well-mannered and generous, a pious Catholic and social conservative who liked to powder his hair in the old style. His young wife, Marie-Jeanne, was also a favourite at court, doted on by Napoleon and Empress Josephine. In 1805, Bessières commanded the Imperial Guard. In December that year, at the Battle of Austerlitz, he played a crucial role repelling the Russian Guard at the battle's climax. At Eylau in 1807, his squadrons supported Murat's mass cavalry charge and made their own disciplined attacks to cover his withdrawal. However, Bessières' opportunities for glory were limited. Napoleon always held the Guard back as his last reserve, as at Friedland.
Ever felt trapped by endless ads while watching your favorite videos? One click on privacyadblocker.com.
Yeah, Napoleon was really, like, selective with the Guard. Essentially not always using them, because they kind of had this reputation, and I suppose he didn't want to shatter it, but also practically to keep in reserve and around him, so yeah, cool. Bessières was pretty much like a leader in that station, a really honored station, quite frankly.
In 1808, Bessières received his first major independent command in northern Spain. That May, the country erupted in revolt against the French. Bessières reacted quickly and decisively, securing key towns and roads. He then attacked Spanish forces at Medina de Rioseco, winning a crushing victory against an enemy that outnumbered him 2-1. But once the immediate crisis had passed, he hesitated and failed to exploit his victory. When Napoleon arrived in Spain, Bessières was given command of the reserve cavalry, a role he retained for the war against Austria in 1809. In May, Bessières and his cavalry were among the first across the Danube, with Masséna occupying the village of Aspern on his left and Lannes holding Essling on the right. When the Austrian commander, Archduke Charles, launched a massive and unexpected counterattack, Bessières, outnumbered 4-1, made a series of desperate charges, helping to save the army from disaster. It came at a high cost. Bessières and his cavalry performed bravely. But that night, a long-running feud with Marshal Lannes nearly came to blows when Lannes accused Bessières of hanging back. The matter went no further, as Lannes was fatally wounded the next day. Bessières commanded the cavalry again at Wagram, leading a major attack to cover Masséna's redeployment to the left wing. As the charge began, a cannonball killed Bessières' horse and injured his leg. A rumor reached the Imperial Guard that Bessières was dead. Some old veterans began to weep for their old commander, until they were assured he was only wounded. "That was quite a cannonball," Napoleon told Bessières. "It reduced my guard to tears." As a devout Catholic,
sure
Bessières was critical of Napoleon's divorce from Empress Josephine, leading to a short spell out of favour. In 1811, he was sent back to Spain to command the Army of the North. He found an impossible situation: a widespread insurgency and insufficient troops and supplies. He wrote bluntly to Napoleon, stating that the French must give up territory, something the Emperor would never allow. For all his piety and refined manners, Bessières ordered his share of executions and reprisals in his attempt to pacify northern Spain, brutal methods used by many French commanders in this conflict. Later that year, he joined forces with Marshal Masséna's Army of Portugal to take on Wellington's army at the Battle of Fuentes de Oñoro, but was widely blamed for refusing to send in his cavalry to support Masséna's attacks. Unfortunately for Napoleon, this was typical of how many marshals behaved in his absence. They'd rather watch another marshal fail than help them to win all the glory. In 1812,
yeah, I think he's mentioned that there are feuds among the marshals, and yeah, a desire for glory, and yeah, that kind of sucks. He disrespected the man Masséna, but I like Bessières overall. You know, I think he comes across as incredibly competent and just good, you know, and I don't begrudge anyone for how they performed in Spain, because at the end, very few marshals actually did do well in Spain. And, yeah, definitely up there. He's one of the cavalry dudes. Murat, Ney, and Bessières.
Bessières accompanied Napoleon into Russia, commanding his Guard cavalry. Since the Guard was kept in reserve, he saw little action until the retreat, when he led the advance guard, clearing a path for the survivors. The disaster in Russia left Bessières severely demoralized, but he was resolved to do his duty, now serving once more as Napoleon's cavalry commander, in Marshal Murat's absence. On the 1st of May 1813, Bessières was scouting enemy positions before the Battle of Lützen, when a cannonball hit him in the chest, killing him instantly. His death robbed Napoleon of a dependable commander and one of his last remaining friends. "It is surely a great loss for you and your children," Napoleon wrote to his widow, "but an even greater one for me."
Dang, Napoleon. Dang, yeah, Bessières, man, that's tragic. I overall have a very positive opinion of Bessières. I think he's very competent and just good. tragic end, up there with Lannes, you know? Rip Bessières.
8. Marshal MacDonald.
Good and brave, but unlucky.
Jacques MacDonald's father was a Scotsman who'd supported Bonnie Prince Charlie's bid to seize the British throne in 1745. After this ended in defeat at Culloden, the family fled to France. Inspired by tales of the Trojan War, MacDonald chose a military life and became a lieutenant in Dillon's Irish Regiment, a French unit made up mostly of Irish émigrés. In the Revolutionary Wars, he won a reputation as a hard-working, intelligent and brave officer, and served as aide-de-camp to General Dumouriez, commanding the Army of the North. He distinguished himself in that general's famous victory at Jemappes, paving the way for rapid promotion from lieutenant to general in just 2 years.
Wow.
He led his division well during campaigns in Holland and Germany, and formed a close bond with one of France's most successful commanders of this period, General Moreau. In 1798, he was sent to Rome as governor, and later commanded the army of Naples. Summoned north the following year to reinforce Moreau's army of Italy, he was nearly killed in a skirmish with Austrian cavalry, and while still suffering from his wounds, his army was defeated at the Trebia by a larger coalition force commanded by the great Russian general Suvorov. But MacDonald's own conduct won approval from General Bonaparte, among others. Later that year, he assisted Napoleon's seizure of power in the coup of 18 Brumaire, ensuring the loyalty of the troops at Versailles. He was rewarded with an army command in Switzerland, and that winter led his men through the Alps to attack the Austrians in Italy. His march was far more challenging and dangerous than Napoleon's, but was never immortalized in quite the same way.
Napoleon and his flair for PR, dude, he could make himself look even better than he already was, man. MacDonald, I'm afraid you didn't have that same skill.
1804, MacDonald's former commander, General Moreau, was arrested and charged with involvement in a plot to assassinate Napoleon.
Dang.
MacDonald stood up for his friend's reputation, an act of loyalty typical of the man, but disastrous for his career.
Yeah, I bet.
Moreau.
Yeah, some of these marshals, I think I dislike a little because some of them, like Argerot, for example, are just kind of going where the wind blows. Like, oh, Napoleon, I don't like this dude. Napoleon gets power. Oh, I love Napoleon, you know? MacDonald, you know, just, I like people who, I guess, hold more integrity or straight up to their beliefs, even if they're not for Napoleon, at least they're straight up about it. And yeah, MacDonald, I really like that show of integrity, you know? It's like, yeah, you won't benefit from defending your friend at this point, you know, from the most powerful man in France, but he's still gonna do it. There's just something about that I just really respect.
Was exiled. MacDonald was placed under police surveillance and retired to his country estate in disgrace. 5 years passed before Napoleon, desperate for experienced senior commanders, asked him to serve as military advisor to his 27-year-old stepson, Prince Eugène, now commanding the army of Italy. MacDonald and Eugène worked well together, driving back the Austrians, and by an awesome feat of marching, joined Napoleon near Vienna in time for the Battle of Wagram. The second day of the battle was MacDonald's moment. Entrusted by the Emperor with the main attack on the enemy centre, he formed his troops into a giant, open-backed square and advanced into a hail of fire. Napoleon, watching through his telescope, exclaimed several times, "What a brave man! What a brave man!" MacDonald's costly attack helped to secure a great victory. The next day, Napoleon went to find him on the battlefield and greeted him with the words, "Let us be friends from now. You have acted valiantly and given me the greatest services. On the battlefield of your glory, where I owe you so large a part of yesterday's success, I make you a Marshal of France. You have long deserved it.
Oh yeah, MacDonald's really cool, man. Like, yeah, that is pretty, like, you know, gutsy. And yeah, I can't believe he just sat around doing nothing for 5 years. What, you know, at least in terms of like serving the military, the dude seems. Like I said, the thing with all of Napoleon's marshals, it's hard for me to say anyone sucks, because obviously they all have pretty good careers if you look at them, like, in their military. So it's hard to say there's like a really bad marshal, because quite frankly, all these guys are accomplished. So it's, you know, I kind of have like a newfound respect for MacDonald.
In addition, MacDonald received the title Duke of Taranto and a large pension. But as time would prove, his loyalty remained to France, not to Napoleon.
Who gets a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood?
MacDonald spent an unhappy year in Catalonia, commanding troops in what he regarded as an immoral war. In his memoirs, he even praised the noble and courageous resistance of the Spanish. In 1812, he was given command of 10th Corps for the invasion of Russia. This corps, composed of German troops and reluctant Prussian allies, guarded the left flank of the invasion and had a relatively quiet campaign. In December, the Prussians suddenly agreed an armistice with the Russians, leaving the loyal remnants of MacDonald's corps to fight their way back to Poland. By 1813, Napoleon relied on MacDonald as one of his senior marshals. In August, he gave him command of the forces keeping watch on General Blücher's army of Silesia. But when MacDonald advanced across the Katzbach River, torrential rain and flooding caused chaos among his troops, just as they encountered Blücher's army. Blücher launched an immediate attack, and MacDonald's army was routed. Thousands of his new conscripts surrendered or deserted. Hundreds were driven into the river itself. MacDonald took full responsibility for the disaster, though his lack of cavalry and some bad luck were also to blame. Napoleon certainly continued to respect MacDonald's military judgment. He continued to command 11th Corps and was in the thick of the fighting at Leipzig 2 months later. MacDonald was with the rear guard when the French retreat began, and was shocked to see the chaos that engulfed the army. When the Elster Bridge was blown too early, he himself was trapped on the wrong side of the river and just managed to swim to safety under enemy fire. MacDonald continued to serve Napoleon as a loyal and reliable commander throughout the 1814 campaign, effectively serving as his deputy at several key moments. Unlike most marshals, MacDonald was never under Napoleon's spell, and always spoke his mind to the Emperor. This in itself was a valuable service, though it sometimes led to heated arguments. Perhaps inevitably, in April, it was MacDonald and Ney who took the lead in confronting Napoleon with the facts of his situation. The war was lost, and he must abdicate. Napoleon named MacDonald as one of the 3 men who would negotiate with the Allies, telling his foreign minister, the Marquis de Caulaincourt, "MacDonald does not like me, but he is a man of his word, of high principles, and he can be relied on."
Yeah, it seems like MacDonald's, he's kind of like that dude who tells you the truth, and you might hate him for it, but you respect him later because he's honest. Like, you know, I think that, yeah, he's just honest. He's not biased in any way, and yeah, that's very admirable. Especially if you want like a guy working with you, you know, he'll tell you the facts without, you know, downplaying it. And I don't know. I think that's pretty cool of him. I really like his character, if you would.
In their last meeting, a few days later, Napoleon told MacDonald, "I did not know you well. I was prejudiced against you, I have done so much for so many others who have abandoned me. And you, who owe me nothing, have remained faithful. I appreciate your loyalty. Too late.
Dang, it's quite the statement to make. But yeah, MacDonald seems like a real one, you know? Like a man who just sticks to his principles and guns, and yeah, that's the kind of dude you would want working with you, for sure, man.
MacDonald was kept on as a military advisor by France's restored Bourbon monarchy. He continued to speak his mind, so much so that Louis XVIII nicknamed him his outspokenness.
That's a good
During
one.
the 100 Days, MacDonald remained loyal to the king and attempted to rally troops to fight against Napoleon. When he saw this was futile, he escorted the king to safety in Belgium, then returned to Paris, where he refused to meet with Napoleon. After the defeat at Waterloo, he was put in charge of demobilizing the last elements of Napoleon's Grande Armée, and helped many officers to escape arrest by the Bourbons. MacDonald was a methodical, reliable, if unspectacular commander. But he distinguished himself above all by his lack of vanity or personal ambition, his complete loyalty to France, and his willingness to speak his mind, virtues that were all too rare among Napoleon's marshals.
Yeah, that instantly makes him stand out. I have a lot of respect for him. He seems a man of good character, and yeah, a lot more respect, because I didn't really regard much of, you know, MacDonald during when we were actually watching the main series. Yeah, he was mentioned in there, but seeing more of him, I'm like, yeah, good dude. Yeah, and even Napoleon, you know, probably didn't fully realize it till the end, but yeah, MacDonald, thumbs up, man. Good job.
7.
The MVP of Italy. Yes, my second favorite marshal, Masséna.
Marshal Masséna.
He came alive when surrounded by danger. When defeated, he was always ready to begin again, as if he was, in fact, the victor. Boss.
André Masséna was born in Nice, at that time not technically part of France, but of the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia. His father, a shopkeeper, died when he was young, so he ran away to sea, then at 17 enlisted in the French army. He was quickly made a sergeant, but a commoner could rise no higher in the Royal Army, so after 14 years' service he quit. When the French Revolution began, he re-enlisted in a local volunteer battalion. Masséna, supremely self-confident and unfazed by any challenge, was elected to command the battalion and led it with success against the Austrians on the Piedmontese front. Despite his lack of education, he proved an instinctive combat leader. He was soon promoted to brigadier, and after leading a successful attack at the Siege of Toulon, was made General of Division. He won an impressive victory over the Austrians at Loarno in 1795, and
Yeah, I think like when we were watching the Italian campaign, like Masséna is the one who impressed me the most with his, you know, performance and the way he handled himself in Italy. I just think like, yeah, he became, until Davout came in the picture, he was my favorite marshal. I keep calling him, I dubbed him the MVP of Italy. It's just like, he was beyond impressive, you know? That was like him at like his best, at least in my opinion. And yeah, overall just beyond impressive.
when the Army of Italy's commander, General Scherer, resigned over lack of support from the government in Paris, many expected Masséna to replace him. Instead, the job went to the 26-year-old General Bonaparte, 11 years younger and much less experienced than Masséna, but with far better political connections. Nevertheless, Napoleon and Masséna worked together brilliantly. Masséna commanded his advance guard and played a major role in several of his early victories. In reports, Napoleon described Masséna as active, tireless, audacious, He won so many battles that Napoleon acclaimed him l'enfant gâté de la victoire, the spoiled child of victory. Masséna was, however, notorious for extorting vast sums from the local Italians, often while his own troops went hungry and without pay. In 1798, Masséna received his first independent command, the Army of Switzerland. The next spring, after French defeats on the Rhine and in Italy, responsibility for the defence of France lay in his hands. Rather than wait to be encircled, he attacked and won a brilliant victory over Austrian and Russian forces at the Battle of Zurich. Rewarded with command of the Army of Italy, Masséna led a heroic defence of Genoa in 1800. He was eventually starved into surrender, but his stubborn defence bought Napoleon enough time to cross the Alps and defeat the Austrians at Marengo. Physically exhausted by this last ordeal and surrounded by accusations of corruption, Masséna was recalled to Paris and went into semi-retirement. When he was made a marshal by Napoleon in 1804, he seemed distinctly underwhelmed, and on being congratulated, remarked, "There are 14 of us." But Masséna was one of the few marshals who'd proved themselves in independent command, making him a priceless asset to Napoleon. In 1805, he was recalled to active service and given command of the Army of Italy in the war against the Third Coalition. Masséna kept Archduke Charles's army busy in Italy, while the Emperor won his great victories at Ulm and Austerlitz. In 1806, Masséna oversaw the occupation of the Kingdom of Naples, ordering brutal reprisals against local resistance. In 1807, he commanded 5th Corps in Poland, but his role covering Warsaw meant he missed the major battles of Eylau and Friedland. Later that year, while out hunting with the Emperor and his entourage at Fontainebleau, he was accidentally shot in the face and lost the use of an eye. Napoleon, a notoriously bad shot, was to blame, but the loyal Marshal Bessières claimed responsibility.
Dang. What the heck? I like knowing where he was during some of these like bigger battles, because he wasn't mentioned, so I'm happy knowing about that, but dude, Napoleon, uncool. Oh man, why would anyone want to hunt with Napoleon? Well, then again, how could one refuse their general / emperor? But poor Masséna, man. That sucks. I'm gonna take another point off of you, Napoleon. Shame on you, Napoleon. Shame.
The war against Austria in 1809 saw Masséna back near his best. His corps formed the vanguard for the crossing of the Danube, and fought ferociously to hold the village of Aspern against an overwhelming Austrian onslaught. Masséna was everywhere, displaying his usual coolness under fire, and when ordered to retreat, ensured his troops pulled back across the river in good order. The battle was a defeat, but Masséna had been superb. Together, he and the Emperor oversaw preparations for the next attempt to cross the Danube 6 weeks later. The Austrians were waiting for them at the Battle of Wagram. Because of a riding accident a few days earlier, Masséna had to command his corps from a carriage. He made a fine target for Austrian gunners, but was still able to organize a complex redeployment of his corps at the height of the battle, covered by Marshal Bessières' cavalry charge. Masséna's bold maneuver secured the French left flank and won further praise from Napoleon. Masséna...
Dude is so great, man. I love Masséna, dude. He is just so good at what he does. And I can't... In this ranking, there are still many who go above him, but man, like I said, he's my second favorite marshal. I just think he is so cool, you know?
Already ennobled as the Duke of Rivoli, received a new title, Prince of Essling, and another less welcome reward, command of French forces for the invasion of Portugal. Masséna was deeply reluctant to go and complained bitterly about his appointment. He was showing clear signs of exhaustion and was plagued by rheumatism and bad lungs. When he arrived in Spain, General Foy observed, "He's only 52, but he looks more than 60. He's lost weight and has begun to stoop. His glance, since the accident in which he lost an eye, has lost its keenness." His subordinates, already underwhelmed by his appearance, were outraged that the Marshal also decided to bring along his mistress, poorly disguised as an officer of dragoons.
That is hilarious. He's like, hey, let Masséna get some, you know? If he's already doesn't want to be there, if the man wants to, do the nasty, let him, man. He's earned it more than anyone. Oh, man. Yeah, Masséna was already past his heyday, exhaustion and age and sickness were already catching up with him, which makes me even sadder that he was disgraced during Spain and Napoleon was really harsh on him, because quite frankly, yeah, at this point he should have retired. At this point he should have been retired, or at least kept in Paris at home, not having to do this. Could have sent someone else to handle the situation. But yeah, I was really sad that Masséna was treated the way he was. I really think that at this point he's already proven himself, and yeah, arguably should have been given a more easier job, or at least retirement, The
French invasion of Portugal proved a disaster, undone by Wellington's scorched earth tactics, the hostile population and terrain, and Masséna's own lethargic leadership. His corps commanders, especially Marshal Ney, were scathing of his conduct. At Busaco, Masséna squandered lives with an unnecessary frontal attack on a strong British position. When he reached Lisbon, he found the city protected by new fortifications, the impregnable lines of Torres Vedras. Masséna waited outside Lisbon for reinforcements that never came, while sickness and guerrilla raids took their toll on his army. 5 months later, he recrossed the mountains back into Spain, leaving a string of devastated villages behind him. The next summer, at Fuentes de Oñoro, Masséna attacked Wellington's army once more, and despite much hard fighting, again failed to win a clear victory. He blamed Marshal Bessières for his lack of support. But the Emperor's patience was at an end. He sent Marshal Marmont to replace Masséna, and when they next met, greeted him with the cutting words, "So, Prince of Essling, you are no longer Masséna." Masséna's health was now in steep decline.
Yeah, I overall, we've all kind of been pro-Napoleon in this series, but I feel like at least I've kind of talked about his failings, especially near the end with his big mistakes and blunders. But yeah, that's kind of oh, Napoleon, that's not really cool, dude. That was really mean to Masséna. I feel bad for Masséna. He didn't deserve that. And I feel like Napoleon probably didn't fully understand the competence of Wellington and just how bad the situation in Spain got. So I feel like Masséna really got shafted when he really didn't deserve it. I feel nothing but sad about that. Napoleon, that was not really cool of you. That was not cash money. No one even says that anymore. Yeah, I'm only 24, but the longer these go on, you're gonna see that I'm already kind of been out of touch with current slang and with my own generation, and it's only gonna get worse the older I get. I'm gonna be so out of touch. I'm gonna be using slang from 2014 still.
He never held a major command again, though he was recalled in 1813 to supervise a military district in southern France. He died after a long illness in 1817. In his prime, Masséna was a superb commander, incisive and dangerous, but he was past his best by the time he became a marshal. Nevertheless, there were enough sparks of his old brilliance to worry his adversaries. The Duke of Wellington once remarked, "When Masséna was opposed to me in the field, I never slept comfortably." Bessières, MacDonald, Masséna.
I love that respect for Masséna, man. Like, he was sadly past his heyday, but he still was beyond impressive. And yeah, I'm sad he was disgraced by Napoleon like that.
20 down, 6 to go. Join us for the next part of Napoleon's Marshals as we reveal our top 6, coming soon. Thank you.
And we will be there to see that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. This was really cool. I love seeing Masséna, and I'm really looking forward to seeing even more of, you know, especially Davout when we eventually get there. So I'm gonna end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.